Evening, folks. Jer here at The View for this week's podcast, episode 15. We've dug out the Elvis tracks on the back of Daniel Farke's press conference. We're going to get stuck into it. Joined by Joe Blackburn from the Joe Blackburn channel and by Ben Locke at Locke Leeds, whose details will be down below. You can check them out as well if you want to. It's been an interesting day. We're going to go through the press conference and we're going to talk a little bit about all of the stack of names that came out today as possible targets for Leeds United. And then just to say, again, as usual, as with all podcasts, this podcast is a pre-record. It'll be live probably between 6:30 and 7 o'clock if you're watching it, but it was pre-recorded. Tomorrow we'll have a live with Andrew Stats-Dalton previewing the game against Sheffield Wednesday on Friday night as well. But we'll start off by checking in with everyone, make sure they're all okay. Lockie, how are you this week? How's your week been?
Yeah, not a bad week, mate, to be fair. Just been keeping myself busy, trying to pump out the content for once. I usually do every 3 a week. I've just been doing every day because there's been stuff to talk about, which is something, isn't it? So, yeah, not bad, mate. Just looking forward, hopefully, for the next 8 or 9 days.
Feels like not enough time. Joe, how have you been, mate? Where's your head?
On a more general sort of vibe, very, very stressed recently because this weekend was very... Yeah, I watched the match on Saturday, then an hour later I had to get the train to London, which because trains are trains in the UK, was a nightmare. Then the next morning I was working from 8 a.m. until like 11 p.m. that evening because things were absolutely wild. And then I travelled back on Monday to find out that everything's still on fire. So it's been fun, I guess. And at least we've not lost in the league yet, because it would have been far too kind of the club to just lose 1-0 to West Brom so I could finish my streaming every day until we lose in the league series. But no, they decided not to.
That could be
I don't know if everything's on fire right now, but I think we're in that spot where everyone's asking, is there a fire? There's a fire somewhere, isn't there? There is but we haven't seen the fire just yet.
Why do I hear sirens?
We haven't got to locate it just yet. But by next Friday, it could have gone out, or it could be a raging inferno. By which stage we'll have to deal with that when it comes down to it. But we're going to get into stuff today. It's been a hell of a week, and we'll just start off with we'll go through the transfer stuff to start with. Then we'll finish with Daniel Farke's comments from the press conference today because he did say a couple of interesting stuff. But we'll start with some of the transfer links, lads, that have popped up in the last, I'd say 24 hours. It appears to have gone a bit crazy with names being thrown out there. Now, we would expect on the back of Georgie's sale, it's easy picking to kind of link Leeds to a winger or a 10 at this stage because, as Graham Souness said during the week with TalkSport, everyone knows what Leeds want and everyone knows that Leeds have money. So it's going to be more difficult. But some of the names that came up, I'm going to start off, Lockie, with some of the more kind of peripheral names that seem unlikely to happen. Hannibal Mejbri from Manchester United as a central midfield option. Obviously had a spell in the Championship. Is an okay midfielder by my understandings as a player. I haven't seen a huge amount of him. Callum Stengs from Feyenoord and Carlos Forbes from Ajax. They're just those three initially. We'll get to the rest in a minute. But those three initially seem to be names that either are too far away for Leeds to do and too difficult to do, or a player that's probably not going to make us any better than we currently are.
Yeah, Stengs, I've said this from the start. Look, I'd love Stengs because he's very good, but he's not coming to the Championship. If he does, I'll eat my words and I'll never be so happy in my life to eat my words. But Stengs is a very, very good player. I know people are talking about the MLS, but that was a very lucrative deal. One of them, like LA are bringing out to Messi and all them. Like, it was a big deal with a lot of money, and he didn't go anywhere. And he said straight after he's staying at Feyenoord, he's not leaving. So that will happen. Hannibal, again, I've not seen too much of him. He played at Birmingham, I think the season before last, where I saw maybe 2 or 3 games of them played in that Championship season. He's a very active box-to-box midfielder. I quite like his aggression and his tenacity. His decent technical ability as well, but like you said, don't know too much about him. I remember we played Man United in the Youth Cup, and Leeds fans were saying very mean chants about him. So maybe he doesn't fancy that to do with his hair and looking like a Simpsons character.
He does.
Yes,
yeah, he does.
So maybe not there, but I think you're right. There's some that are very wide the mark for me, but there's some good ones as well. Who was the third one you said, Joe?
Carlos Forbes from Ajax.
City youth player, very good player. Actually, I did a video a year ago on him before he went to Ajax, saying it'd be a great loan option for Leeds, and he went to Ajax, obviously, but it didn't work out there. And I was thinking, look, maybe another loan option from Ajax in the Championship for a season. but it seems like they want to sell. And if that's the case, I'm assuming the value's too high. But again, another good player, but probably you're probably too high if it's a sell, I think.
Yeah, Joe, another name that came up in the last 24 hours was Manuel Benson from Burnley. And I know you've done a few bits and pieces on it as well. Where's your head at with Manuel Benson coming in? Does he add anything else to Leeds, or should we be concerned about the injury record that he has?
On the Manuel Benson stuff, I've very specifically avoided doing bits on him because he's always been in that category of, he feels like he'll become a Ryan Kent, if that makes sense. The sort of player where it's like, oh, good, we're just talking about Manuel Benson again because no one's got any ideas. Yeah, I think there's a pretty clear reason that like coach after coach is like, well, I mean, he's okay for the Championship, but we're not going to play him in a level higher than that. And I think what we ideally want to be looking for is, admittedly, we need to get out of the Championship first. But if we're signing players, we kind of need people that can make that transition. And if Benson's already effectively proven that he is maybe not of the standard to do that, then that scares me a little bit, I think.
And no Johnny Rowe either now, by looks of things. Joe, it looks all but done and dusted. £14 million deal to Marseille. Off he goes. Bit of a sell on. Norwich have managed to get a sell on clause in that deal, so maybe Leeds just went, nope, we're not doing this. No more sell on clauses. No more clauses. End of story. Have we lost out on that one? Do you feel, or do you have any kind of hope that there's somebody else in the back pocket ready to pop up and go? Surprise.
I feel like there's probably someone just further down on some list on an Excel spreadsheet somewhere that the club are like, yeah, we can go to him if Rowe doesn't happen. And then Rowe didn't happen. But on the sort of Rowe conversation, I think I'm roughly in the spot of it's fine enough that we didn't get him, because I've been talking to a Norwich fan that works at the same place as me and has a couple of people that he knows within the club, and they're all just sort of like, well, if he's forcing his way out and he's been a little bit of a prick about it, then it's not the sort of personality that I would want coming to the club. If in a couple of years, say we go up this season, maybe struggle a bit next season, we're 17th-ish, but he still thinks, you know what, I might be better than this. What's to say that he won't do the same thing again next season? And especially for 17 million quid, that doesn't feel quite right for me.
Yeah, it's very similar to what Willie did last year. And it's slightly hypocritical to be buying a player who's doing that. Arguably so is Lupatic, but doing that in one club to then take them in and go, no, it's fine. It's fine because you didn't do it here. Just don't do it here. Because again, as you say, Joe, if you've done it and it works, you'll probably do it again. Further down the line, we've seen players like that. But Joe, Locke, I wanted to come to you about two specific players that came up that are very interesting. The names appear to be getting a bit more interest and a bit more noise around the place. The first one is Ilan Kebal from Paris FC. Looks on paper a very good player, is rated the top 5 players in League 2 in France. From what I can see, he's been labelled as one of the best passers in the division, has an eye for a through ball for an assist, and can score goals as well. You've done some bits in the past on him. I know he's been on your list as well. What should we be excited about Kebal if he does come in? There are some reports saying that he's very close to a deal, and there's other reports saying that it's just conversations with his agent right now. But as a player, would you be excited about that kind of a signing?
Yeah, 100%, mate. That is... And I did. It was January. I think on my channel, I did one that last year on him. I can't remember. I'll have to look. But in January, it was on Joe's Scout Report. We talked about him. But honestly, since January, his season got even better. And to the level where I was looking at the end of the season, and I can't remember what teams, but they were top, maybe like Monaco, Rennes, teams like that linked to him. So I just thought, right, no chance. But the fact that this conversation is coming about now, near the end of the window, and he's still there, maybe it is realistic. And that excites me because, he is a very good player. Like I said, I know people will be worried about his age, and he's 26 and playing in League 2. Look, at the end of the day, he's had ups and downs in his career. He did have consistency problems. He did have issues in his game. But in the last 2 years, he's really impressed. And the second half of last season was unplayable. Really unplayable. Like, he's a creative general who just loves to create, loves to go forward. And there is genuinely a similarity between the way Pablo plays to the way he plays, in the sense that he will, whenever he gets the ball, no matter what he does with it, he will try and find a way to be creative. His passing ability and his technique is ridiculous. His dribbling is really good. Shooting is probably something he could get a little bit more consistent in. But honestly, a player like that at this level, would be top for me. His trajectory that's what you've got to look at in the last 2 years, since maybe 23, 24 years old. He's really developed his game all around. He's a very small, diminutive player, but he's the type of player that physicality doesn't matter to him because he's just too quick and too diminutive to get involved in that stuff. So genuinely would be a big statement for me for Leeds United. Could be wrong. Like I say, you like these players. It's hard to see until they get to the league, till they get to the team, what they're actually like in this team. But yeah, I'd love a player like that, mate. That's the exact profile I think we need. And play wide and in the 10 as well.
Just to clarify one bit, a lot of people have been like, I can't believe we're signing someone from that division. To clarify, it's Ligue 2, not League 2. It's not the 4th division, it's just the 2nd one in France. It's still a fairly strong standard. So the number of people that are like, he's not been tried at this level. We're also in the 2nd tier. And he's played roughly our standard of opposition, so it kind of adds up. Also, I just like the idea of having 2 players called Elan. One's really tall, one's really short. That just makes me really happy.
There'd be a song there, won't there? There's definitely a song there. Sure.
You can throw an Ilya in there as well. So yeah, there's a couple that are very close to each other. But get into the press conference stuff, because I mean, whatever happens in the window this week will happen in the window. Farke has pretty much said that he doesn't expect to have anything done by Friday night, but does expect to have players in by next week. Now, I'm assuming he means next week because he said we have to do a minimum of 1 game without the new players. It has to be a minimum of 1 because the second game comes after the deadline window closes. So if it's 2, then we're in with this bunch of players for at least until the winter window opens at the end of December, start of January. So we're moving into the Sheffield Wednesday game. And Farkas had some interesting comments, and I just want to start off with you, Locke. He seems to be putting an awful lot more pressure on the board with certain comments around he's backed them again. No one is to blame for what's happened. Although arguably you could say, well, 49ers were involved in the Georgie deal and Archie's last contract, but no one is to blame on it. And that he backs them and that he believes he'll get the players that they need in. Now, he's already been very public in what he wants. That's putting all that information out there in the public sphere. So you would imagine then if that doesn't happen and we don't get those players, there could be some serious pressure put on the ownership. Not, I won't say career limiting, but it puts him in a very difficult position should they not give him what he wants. Either he's got unbelievable trust in them or he knows something we don't. But I want to get your take on it.
Yeah. And just to start it off, at the end of the day, like we've been saying, you've got to back the manager. No, don't hire him. You know what I mean? The manager makes clear, like he said, he mentioned months ago about Georgie and replacements and all that. He's made clear. And you got to remember as well, Farke used to be a director of football before he was manager. That's what he used to do. So I think they're defending the board. He kind of, probably because he worked there and he kind of has more sympathy for that side of it. It's like when, you know, Joe, if you see the coach being attacked, you have more of a incentive to defend them because you understand the ins and outs of it and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So I get that side of it from him, from his perspective. We might not like to hear it because obviously from a fan perspective, we don't want to hear him defending the board or whatever, but he will. But I think he's put his stall out there. He's made clear and he's getting more and more aggressive with it. Signings will be here and we need to stop speaking about it and do it. And he's said that many times. And he's a very proud man, Farke. Like I said, he's worked at all levels in football. He's done director of football. He's been a coach. So he's been a player. So he understands from each perspective, I guess, what is needed. But he also understands from his perspective as a coach, he needs these players. He wants these players. And he wants the board to promise what they promised him to get him. And he's probably slightly annoyed that he's taking this long. But he's still backing them, which means he probably gets it to an extent, maybe. But there's no doubt about it. They've got to give him what he wants. It's fairly simple for me. Back the manager fully.
Yeah, Joe, a little less conversation, a little more action, please, were the lines that he used straight from Elvis in the nightgown of the day. Again, it's putting it up to him, isn't it, though? It's like, and he's called himself the Shield. His job is to shield the club and be the face of the club, and he's happy to do that, but over to you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are sort of saying, like, why is he saying basically consistently the party line? This is, I think, as far from the party line as you can feasibly be without risking your own job. This is very much, right, okay, let's get a little bit of a shift on. And I quite like that that's happening. It's a lot better than just sort of sitting there and maybe in a meeting you'll just subtly be like, yeah, how are we doing on the number 10 thing? It's actively going out and going, right, okay, I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on the board, and as a result of that, that means that fans and journalists are more likely to match that pressure and sort of make sure that something is a bit more likely to happen. And it's a good PR move, I'd say, because it just sort of makes sure that there is a little bit of incentive to do something on the 49ers side rather than just achieve results. I think it's at the end of the day, they care a bit about their image, and being able to sort of protect that image by going like, look, we did do the thing, is going to be helpful for them, I feel.
Yeah, and it's thingy because I think a manager that's really towing the company line will either refuse to speak on it and say, we'll see what happens, and then that's it. Say, I'm not saying anymore. Or it'd be the opposite, where he'd big up all his players so much, like ex-manager used to do, where you kind of like, wait, so you're bigging them up, so we're not doing anything then? Jesse would say one week that we need this, and then the week after, like you said, Joe, many times, would say, oh, we have this guy who's amazing in this position. Farke's saying the opposite. He's going, we've lost this guy, I need them replaced. So he's saying what isn't, like Joe said. He's not going to say they're all terrible, they need to do it now, because he's employed by them. And we have to remember that. I know it's difficult at times, but he is employed by them. And I think, for me anyway, this is just my personal opinion, I like the balance he's striking. I do. Like, the questions he's been said, a lot of them probably not for him, probably are for the director of footballs and the owners, but obviously they're not going to come to a press conference and speak about it. So for me personally, people can say what they want, happy clapper about him, whatever. I like what he's saying. I don't mind it. Some things you're a bit like, whatever, but from his perspective, I like what he's saying. He's telling them, I want this, this, and this, without saying, I want it now, and if you don't, I'm going to walk and all that stuff. So I don't mind it personally.
You just want to see it rewarded from his perspective. Yeah. He's doing the right things by them. He's saying the right things by them. And I agree completely, which if he was going to toe the company line on it, he would say, we don't talk about transfers till work is done and leave it at that. But he's not. He's giving answers. Yeah. Some are very similar. We didn't get a huge amount of chance to talk about football. Same as last week's press conference. It was dominated by everything else except for football. So outside of Max Fober's got a calf injury. Joe, does he have a calf injury? Or are we just waiting until the transfer window gets close to the end?
He might have a herd of cows back in Austria. One of them might be a little bit hurt. That's as far as I reckon there is some truth in that. I think he's having a little bit of a sniff around to see what interest there is, which as much as he's not great, I'd rather he not do, because I'd rather not add to the list of players that we probably need to sign. But yeah, it feels very much like, oh no, I'm slightly hurt and I will be for the next 9 days. Yeah, what a shame. It's definitely one of those.
I think that's we'll see very soon. Won't we? I don't know.
I don't want to get injured between now and the end of the window.
Yeah,
so remind this.
It's coincidence that it's the player that we know doesn't really want to be here, from what he said, that he's injured at this point in the winter. It's quite a coincidence, but we will see, won't we, in the next 9 days, whether this is true or not.
It's also a coincidence that he did it immediately after being impeccably bad against Borough.
Yeah, and didn't seem to be taken off because of an injury. He was just taken off because Leeds were changing the shape. So just off he came for fresh legs on the 60-minute, where you would have expected him to come off in the 60-minute, and then had a calf issue that didn't keep him off the bench for the game just gone, and possibly won't even keep him off the bench for the next game, but he's not playing. So, or it would be a late check. So yeah, I'm not convinced. Part of me hopes the window closes and he's still here, and I'm like, right, off you go to him 21 for 6 months. I'll see you in a bit.
I should have thought though. So say, and this is just speculation, say that was the case, he isn't injured. So are we saying the club are defending the fact, like they're hiding the fact that he's not injured? You know what I mean? So he can, but isn't that similar to what Nonto did? And Farke came out and said, look, we're not saying that. He don't want to play. He told me that. So I don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe it.
Maybe Vober hasn't said it out loud. Maybe Vober's just like, I've got an injury. I can't train and I can't play, but I've got a tightness. And then like the physio will be working away and going, how does this feel? It's like, oh, that's a bit tight.
Ooh,
yeah. Probably shouldn't do anything this weekend or next weekend, actually, or before next weekend. I might have to go home on Thursday to see my mum in Austria for a few hours. So I'll pop off and see what happens. I'm just not convinced he's going to be there. And if he is there,
what suitcases? I'm not bringing anything with me. No, it's fine.
4 massive cases in his hall of his house. Going, oh, I'm going to go home for a weekend.
You're
Some
in
clothes on.
Germany, Max. Why are you in Germany? Nah, Austria's close, isn't it?
Yeah, we know.
Got lost on the autobahn. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. Yeah, sorry about that. My bad. Yeah, so he's the only one that's going to probably miss out on the game. Outside of that, Farke had talked about 2 points in the first 2 games. Technically speaking, we are unbeaten in the championship season so far, Joe. Going into this game, there's pressure on 3 points, especially after Sheffield Wednesday took a tonking last weekend. Farke is kind of, again, managing expectations, saying an opponent is always the most dangerous after a result like this and after they've been hurt. What do you want to see from Leeds going into the game of the weekend?
I would like to see not Joel Piroe starting in the 10. I think we need some movement there. We need a little bit of energy, a little bit of activity. And as much as when we were out of possession, we got what a lot of people were screaming for, which was player 4-4-2. There's a reason that that's mostly in the past now. Yeah, I think the thing with Piroe is he's fine enough. He looks serviceable. But what we were really missing was a bit of creativity, a little bit of urgency, and I just feel like Aronson in the middle with James and Nonto either side would be so much quicker and more active and create a lot more opportunities, because last week, sure, we were probably playing for the draw. We were just going to make sure that we kept a clean sheet, didn't lose, because that would have been really bad. This week, it's Sheffield Wednesday. We need to go for it. So we need to do something to create some actual chances this time round, I think.
I think it's there's a great comment on my YouTube videos. He asked, would it like a creative player in the 10 like a Cabal, for example, would that help Piroe? And I'm a far back, yeah, because Piroe, what I don't like is when a striker or whatever Piroe is, whatever you call him, whatever, is not a 10. Let's be real. Look at Cabal and all them type of guys, completely not a 10. They're 10s, they're creative 10s. The thing about strikers is I personally don't like it when they're a big part of the creative process going forward. I don't like that. I think you have other players that are better at that. I just want strikers to focus on the last man, occupying the centre-backs, getting in the box and making the right runs. That's all what really matters to me for strikers. And Timo Pukki is a great example of a guy who did that. He played on last man, occupied defence. He might drop short once or twice in a game to build it up, but most of the part, last man, balling behind. I think if you bring in a real 10, a proper creative 10, that can help when Joe Piroe does come on, when Mateo's tiring or whatever, I'm fine with that because he'll find Piroe in the right spaces and give it to him in front of goal where he's better. And I think that's all Joe Piroe needs this season is someone to do that creative bit, and he can just come on and get some goals because that's what he's good at. He's not a creative player. And in a creative role, he's not going to do it. So I still feel for him a bit because he's just not that player. So yeah, we need, for this game, honestly, Aronson, just try it. I don't think he will because he put Rothwell in there in front of Aronson at the weekend. Aronson went out wide. So I don't know what he's going to do, mate. It's going to be Joe Piroe, and I'm going to feel sorry for him again when he plays bad in that role.
Yeah, I really don't think it's Joe Piroe's fault. And I mean, the comments didn't help either. Well, I trust, I was rewarding him, but you had him in that position for a chunk of time last year. And we all came to the conclusion, and Daniel came to the conclusion, this doesn't work with him in there. His best performance, albeit one, was the second leg of the playoff against Norwich, where he plays the 9. Good. For me, it's you play him as a 9, you persevere and you work with him to get more of those performances out of him because we've only seen really one of those. And if he is it, and as Daniel Farke said, he's one of the best finishers in the club, well, then you've got to put him in positions where he can finish. Sticking him in the 10 where he has to be creative is not the place for him, and he's not going to get chances. And then when you look at how little Leeds actually created from open play at the weekend, you're just likely to see the same thing happen again. And putting Joe Rothwell into the 10 is taken away from where he should be playing, which is in the 8, Joe. Surely, and then you've got a far more attacking, organised, round peg, round hole looking team, right?
Yeah. I don't really have much to add to that other than can we get some midfielders so we've got some options with things to do in terms of that. There is a little bit of a thought that I had, and is there maybe a little bit of politicking going on with trying to persist with Piroe? Because I don't think he's good enough to start in the 9 right now. I don't think he's the right fit for the 10 right now. But if you look back at last summer, he was our biggest financial investment in terms of players. And it's quite hard to persuade the 49ers. Can you do that again, please? If the guy that they signed last season is not in your first 11, at that point they just go, well, no, we'll go for some options that are maybe more affordable that you've not specifically picked out that will just sort of fit-ish.
So are you saying that what Leeds are telling Daniel Farke is, you wanted him, we got him for you, we paid a significant amount of money, now you make it work?
I don't know if it's them having said that, because that feels like that'd be a little bit of like it's a feasible thing to say, but I feel like it's a bit of an odd thing to say. I think it's more of a, in the back of Farke's head is, this guy cost quite a bit of money. I need to make this work or I ain't going to get quite a bit of money again, sort of situation, even though it's quite badly needed right now, I think.
Yeah, maybe Farke was the head of getting that signing, and maybe he was the one that I want him. Maybe that's a misjudgment on what he can do in this role, maybe, but maybe he's really backing himself. Managers are stubborn. If they like a player and they get him in, best believe they're going to keep using them until they work. Tyler Robertson and Bielsa is a good example of that. I'm going to keep using him. I am going to keep using him. But yeah, for Job, look, at the end of the day, he might score a good goal. And he's got that in him, and I hope he does.
Yeah, he does.
But at the end of the day, we'll still watch the game, and I say this now, but I don't think he'll be the best player on the pitch. I don't think he'll be a big impact, but he can score goals. But we need players around him to help him. I feel for him. I genuinely do.
We had those last season sometimes,
yeah.
and now they're all gone. We had those last season, and now they're all gone.
We had some of them last week, and then they're all gone. Yeah, and it is a problem, especially with the way Farke plays football. If he wanted Piroe, he should be very aware. At least his scouts should be very aware of what profile of player, what systems he fits, and then to look at Farke's system, going, actually, Daniel, I know you want this guy, but he probably doesn't fit what you're trying to do. He's not the mobile player you need in there. Timu Pukki had a very good first touch, could come deep, get the ball, turn and run at people. Piroe doesn't do that more often than not, and usually he needs 2 touches to get the ball under control before he's. Especially when his back is to goal. When he's in front facing goal, he's slightly more instinctive. So, but I keep saying, you don't become a bad player overnight, and he has been historically one of the best scorers in this division as long as he has been in it. And even in the back of a bad season last year, by all accounts, 13 goals and 4 assists is not a bad campaign for a player that didn't really play the bulk of the games outside the first probably 10. But we'll have to see what Daniel Farke does come up. But I did want to get your thoughts before we wrap up today on the leaked Leeds United third kit, which has popped up on social media today. And there's some interesting stories going around about this. One being that if you look at this piece here up here, it looks, you can actually see, it's hard to see them there, but Joe Rodon is in the picture and so is Jayden Bogle. Apparently this was pulled today from a launch, and Leeds are waiting. Now we will be wearing this game on Friday, but it's blue and they wear blue, and we've got a kit that's yellow. I'm not sure why we'd wear blue.
But it's yellow with blue and white stripes.
Yeah.
So the blue and white stripes might be a little bit,
Yeah, I would have thought maybe you're right then. Yeah, maybe. What do we think of this as a kid anyway? That's the concept art over there, and then the 3D render over here.
It's very, very Red Bull, that one. That is the type of design Red Bull tend to go for. I look, I'm a sucker. I like it. I think it's quite nice. I can't lie. I prefer it to the white one, to be honest. I like a little pattern. Yeah, I think it looks all right. I don't mind it.
I like it. It gives me like bus seat kit vibes from a few seasons back, but slightly
good
more.
Omen, right?
Yeah, let's go with that. Absolutely.
We got promoted with that kit. So
no, wait,
go.
did we get promoted with that one or the charcoal one?
Oh no, that's when we missed that one. Charcoal was the third kit, though, wasn't it, that year?
It wasn't.
Home kit was white.
No.
Second was the. Am I mixing the years up?
Bus seat. That bus seat's first year, wasn't it?
I think so.
Right, so we're not going to go up then. Oh well.
No, hold on, because that purpley pink is quite close to the pink that was on the charcoal and pink. So we are going to go up.
We're clutching. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I think it's a turkey. You can have a bit of fun with it. It does look a bit like Red Bull Racing-y, but then again, if you ignore the name, I actually don't mind Red Bull Racing's colors either. So, as a color palette, it's not the worst kit we've had, and it's quite nice, and we'll probably only wear it a handful of times anyway. So, not the end of the world. But yeah, that's doing the rounds. Apparently, was supposed to come out today. Apparently, that's been pulled because Leeds want to have some players in and around the place for other reasons along with it as well, because of potential negative comments. But I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but
So, Joe, being a conspiracy, does that mean so they're going to release it with a new player? And if they pulled it today, does that mean a player might be close?
maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, it's
Probably
quite
not,
hard
but-
to announce a kit on a Friday afternoon for a Friday evening game.
It is, yeah.
So,
Or you just go out with a new kit on a Friday evening going, well, we haven't launched this yet, and we're wearing it. And if you're losing it, well, it's going to have the bad luck hoodoo of an away kit that, so if no one's buying that kit.
put them all in the bin. They're all on fire now. Let's just design a new one. We'll start again.
What is going on there? What is happening?
Right, folks, we'll wrap it up there. Then outside of, look, it's a lot of names, a lot of noise floating around. We've got a big game on Friday night. We'd like to get 3 points. That will settle everyone's nerves a little bit, get a couple of players in the door. I feel like I'm saying this every single week, but here we are again until the window closes. But the next time we sit down to have this conversation, Locke, what do you want to see by the next time we sit down to chat?
So that'll be what? Next week? This time next week?
Next Thursday, yeah.
I want a win, obviously. A win. I want 3 points on the board. And 2 signings by then.
So leaving a busy deadline day.
Yeah. Oh,
Joe, what about you? Oh, you're mute, mate. Lost you.
There we go.
Joe.
Well done, me. I got it.
There you go.
What's up? Yeah. As much as I would love the win, and it would be very nice to have, I just want a performance that can make me go like, oh, there's something here. Like if it's a 1-0 win and it comes in because their goalkeeper's kicked it off the back of their own centre-back's head, I'm not going to be too jolly about that. But if we have a genuinely solid performance, then that'd be quite nice. I'd quite like 3, I think, just because that'd actually be a little bit of momentum going. And oddly, I think I'm going to go against the grain on what a lot of people are asking for in terms of signings. I'd really not like Dejan Ljubicic, but that's a conversation for another time, I think.
Yeah, we will dissect the window at the very end of it. I am planning, although it could be a 6-parter at this stage, but I'm planning to do every player linked with Leeds, where they ended up and what publication linked them in the first place, so we can do a scorecard on reputable sources and ITK nonsense. So it'll probably take a month to build and make, because alone today there was 6 players linked today alone. So I have to go back over all of the videos and get the actual names of the publications. But Lockie, what anything coming up on your channel this week you'd like to plug?
Well, yesterday I did the replacement video with a few decent names in there. Obviously, any signing we bring in, I'll do a report on that player and some match stuff once the match is finished.
Joe?
The streaming at least once a day for every day that Leeds haven't lost in the league is continuing for at least 2 more days, hopefully a little bit longer. But aside from that, just the standard sort of stuff, doing newsy bits, the odd live stream.
And you can check out their details down below in the descriptions if you want to go and show them some support. And you can like the channel if you want as well and subscribe. We're itching ever closer to 50,000 subscribers, so you can jump on the bandwagon with that if you want to, and keep watching videos for at least the next week and a half before the window closes and all the interest in the news goes away. But we will see what happens, folks. Thanks as always for supporting the channel and supporting the lads, and I'll see you soon. See ya.